Hey everyone, Kane here. I was suggested to do roster reviews for people, as they do take quite a bit of management. I know I already did a video on rosters, but I think it potentially can be outdated by now. So I will also use this video as another way of showing how to go about your rosters, at the same time, trying to fix someone else's. To start, roster is most likely going to be more than 50% of your unit's power, will be more early on in the server, goes below 50% once you have potential pretty high up there. To have some credibility in my words, here is a picture of my current roster. I have almost 88,000 roster power, that is going to my demon, which has 198,000 power currently. For most of the time, roster was over 50% for him. I have chosen one person from the few that had sent me, and there was one person who is using the same roster for both of his formations, which in a sense is reducing quite a lot of power from your field. By reducing, it means you are using some strong units in another roster to buff either none of your current field or one unit or so. If you have two formations, you need to buy a roster page for 200 diamonds and make another roster page for a second formation. On screen, you should have the pictures he had provided me for the roster that he has right now. And these are the two formations that he has shown me that he is using. They are both very different, but I believe his Sandro formation is his main one, so we will be using that formation as an example in upgrading his roster. On the field, he has 8 Necropolis units, which means there are no other factions to worry about. So you have 1 faction and 4 classes. Total of 5 rosters that you need to fully work on. The fix should be very easy and very simple. He has Inferno, 2 casters, Gog, and Ifriti, who can be moved onto the caster roster instead of the monk and giant. And you have Ice Elemental and Phoenix, who are also decently upgraded, who can be moved onto the caster roster instead of Green Dragon and Archmage. Moving on to the defensive roster, he has 3 Necropolis defensive units, but his defensive roster is not well done. From the Inferno faction, you have Imp and Demon, who can be moved to the defensive roster instead of Centaur and Swordman. And then you have Earth Elemental from the Conflux roster, who can be moved to the defensive roster as well, instead of Dendroid or the Dwarf, whichever is harder for him to upgrade. Now for the charging roster. Sprite is over 2000 score, but it is put in a roster which does not affect the charges of Necropolis. And in the picture here, we can see that there is a unicorn, which potentially has 800 score, due to me seeing the number 8. So we take Sprite and swap it instead of unicorn in here. If he will be watching this video, it is very easy to get plus 1200 score on units. You just need to more or less make them purple or so, items around level 50 or close, and level their skills to 4 or 6. And that should be around 1200. Which was the base level of score that I used for most of my units in the rosters. And now, the last roster, offensive. We have Pit Fiend, Devil, from the Inferno roster, and Physic Elemental, from the Conflux roster. All 3 are decently upgraded. Looking at his offensive roster, it needs a lot work. We take these 3 units I just mentioned, and place them in offensive roster, instead of Fire Elemental, which I believe has 800 score, Goblin, who has 1000, and Pikeman, who has 1000. As well as, for his formation power, that we can see, his roster level is very low. I see purple plus 4, purple plus 5 and so on. Depends how old the server is. But you should be spending all your guild currency to buy roster scrolls that you need, and if it's not the one you need, refresh and look for them. You only need to make heroes 2 to 3 star from the guild. After that, buying hero shards is not cost effective. Unless you decide to use one of the heroes for a while, there would be no point in raising them when rosters can give so much more value for the currency you invest in them. Now, if people wonder about my own rosters that I have shown in the previous video, here is an update of how mine look like in the pictures. I have upgraded them quite good. And I am not too far from upgrading defensive to the next level. About halfway upgrading Inferno roster further as well. I hope this video helped you out, and some other people who still have trouble with rosters. I am sure I will review some more people as the time goes by. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.